Hi everyone, it's Allie. Today I want to talk about a classic science fiction novel, Stranger in a Strange Land. Specifically, I want to talk about if it's enjoyable. A pattern with me in reading is I want to read for fun, I want to enjoy what I'm doing, I want to de-stress, and also get something about humanity, something that makes me maybe more empathetic, understand the world better. But classics could go in either of two ways. Sometimes they're enjoyable, or sometimes we just read them because of the influence they've had. There is no doubt that this book has been very, very influential in the world of literature. It is still assigned very often in high school and university classes. But when you're reading on your own, and you really have the choice of what to pick up and read, is this really worth your time? I want to address a couple things in this book. First, I guess I'll give a synopsis. So, this book follows Valentine Michael Smith. He was born on Mars to human parents from Earth. All the humans that went into Mars in this form of colonization ended up dying, but him, and he was raised by a set of extraterrestrial beings that are known in the book as Martians. Understandably, his culture that he was raised with is much different than what we have here on Earth. So when he comes back to Earth, there ends up being a lot of intercultural exchanges that are very interesting to both kind of think of why we think of things the way we do, how they could be different, how to look at them from other perspectives. Also goes quite a bit into religion and what religion really is to us and what it can be used to do. Now, for a modern, especially female reader, this book is very sexist. It's undeniable. You can excuse it by the fact it was written in the 1950s, published in 1961, but it doesn't change the fact that if you are reading to enjoy books, as a woman, this might not be as enjoyable to you as it might otherwise be. A couple things to look out for in here when it comes to the sexism. It does say in the book, a character, it's a female character talking to a male character. He says, well, we all know that 9 out of 10 women who are raped are partly responsible for that. And that's a paraphrase, but she says pretty much that. So that's a huge, huge problem. That's an obvious thing. But there's also some things that are a lot more subtle that you just have to get used to when reading the book if you are trying to read to enjoy it. So one is that women in this book are predominantly in service professions. And while there's nothing wrong with service professions, I myself am kind of doing that. It can get annoying at times to see all women kind of pegged into the same area. So there's nurse, there's household servants, and why in the book, they are often said, oh, well, they're very smart. We don't actually get a chance to see them being very smart. There is one man in particular in this book that is seen as the sage, and he'll often get into very long monologue type discussions where he's going on and on and on about everything he knows. And then the very smart women will say, oh, really? Tell us more. And then he continues going on monologue style, saying more and more and more. So when you're trying to think of this as a futuristic alternate society, you kind of get held up in the fact that it's an alternative futuristic society that could have been imagined in the 1950s. And for me, that detracted a little bit from the enjoyment because it kind of took me out of the world of this being a whole different experience, of this being a whole different set of reality. It took me back into the 1950s when that's obviously not the point of the book when it's being written. Is it still enjoyable? Yes. Yes, it's still enjoyable. Just the intercultural exchanges between this man that comes back from Mars and everyone on Earth is very interesting in itself. It's interesting to see some people trying to take advantage of him because of his lack of knowledge about the local legal system, things like that. And also his take on very basic concepts. This is a book about love. It's a book about peace. It's a book about open-mindedness. It's a book about expanding our horizons to think about something else. And that's why it is still influential today. With that in mind, as far as my enjoyment and what I got out of it from reading it, the sexism as a woman was very, very distracting. So I ended up giving this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think that there's others that do exactly what this book is trying to do in a way that's less distracting when it comes to you're trying to be thinking of a science fiction world, but it's really America in the 1950s, and it just takes you out of that, and there's this constant push and pull to where you should read this, but it doesn't need to be on the top of your list. Okay, thank you.